What are some of the best gacha games that I recommend playing? No, I'm not talking about the ones that are either pretty good or amazing, but rather the absolute top contenders. Almost 10 out of 10s, near perfect scores. I sometimes get asked this as someone that has played and reviewed a lot of these silly mobile games, and after sitting down and really thinking about what I've seen over the past 3 years or so of making content on gacha games, I've narrowed my list to just 6 titles. Hi, my name is Psyche, and I played all sorts of gacha games. Some good, some not so good, some god-awful. Right now, I think it's about time that I coalesce my understanding of gacha games and pointed out the exceptional candidates that have been outperforming the competition, according to my standards. The list of gacha games is growing by the day, but your time is not. The goal of this video is to go through my personal recommendations on the elite few titles that I think are the most worthy of investing your time and perhaps money into. Let's first go through my criteria for the top 6. There's a pretty long list, but hey, we are talking about the magnum opus of gacha gaming here, so you know it's gonna be selective. First, this video is not sponsored by any entity, it's purely based on my observations, opinions, and analysis. Second, the list is based on my personal criteria. Your tastes and values may be different. I also have not played every mobile game under the sun, so as I gain even more experience, this video may see more variations and changes in the future. I see video games as a hobby. It's not your livelihood or somehow part of your personality. These are products or services, whichever way you want to call them. To me, these are very good products or services that I think there's a lot of value getting into. This list is not in a particular order since I wanted representation from many genres and flavors. There will be a category for each of the 6 games that made the top list, which I will explain in a bit. Originally, I wanted the video to be just the top 5, but felt like I needed to squeeze in a 6th category in there somewhere. So what main criteria have I set for the list? What separates the great from the best? Well, I think I have been an advocate of this. I dislike fear of missing out elements. The gacha system in said games must have the majority of its new units become part of the standard pool, or periodically add older units to the standard pool. Any game that sticks with a flat standard roster or barely updates it at all over the course of years will not be considered, no matter how high quality the other portions of the game are. This means any of the open worlds, Genshin, Wuthering Waves, Enfield so far, as well as any high-budget games such as Girls Frontline 2 and Snowbreak, are disqualified from this list. Now don't get me wrong, all of these games are great, and I recommend them any day of the week. However, my personal criteria for becoming the best of the best entails that the playable roster should be made as fully available as possible. So I cannot recognize this kind of practice of locking most new shiny characters behind exclusivity to be worthy of being at the top. If an open world gacha game shows me that they're willing to put new units in the standard pool periodically, then I will make a 7th category for this list. For now, none of them have demonstrated they're willing to do this yet. The other criteria is that the game needs to make attempts to make content from new events become permanently available. Luckily, it seems to be a more regular thing these days, since to me it doesn't make sense to have most world or character building moments locked behind limited time events and stories. Finally, the game needs to be in good financial and communal standing, meaning that it must be in virtually no risk of being shut down, and the game has a sizable community around it. As such, you will likely recognize most of the entries on the list, since it's only natural that the good games become more successful. With that out of the way, here are the 6 categories that will be granted the honor of becoming the best of the best. Number 1. Best Longevity, aka the all-rounder, the general pick. The game may not be a perfect 10 out of 10 in every area, but it gets pretty damn close overall. This game values your time and money, and has as few annoying barriers in place as it can, while the majority of problems in the game can be solved with essentially any roster. It's got a great story, great characters, gameplay with actual mechanical depth, and decently challenging late game modes to test your skills. Again, may not be a perfect 10 out of 10 in all of these areas, but its consistent high quality more than makes up for it. The game is jam-packed with content, and you can never go wrong with trying out this game. Best Action. You want fast pace and input-heavy controls. You want the satisfaction of dodging enemy attacks at the right moment and pulling off flashy and tight combo rotations. The late game mode is challenging and complex, where one slip-up can knock you out of the rankings. The game either does not rely on RNG-heavy gearing or has plenty of ways of supplying you methods to complete your character builds faster. You're there for the high-intensity gameplay, and anything else good it offers is a cherry on top, but is not really what you're there for. Best strategy also puts in an emphasis on gameplay, but more on the analytical side. The game that occupies this spot has to contain turn-based gameplay. You prefer to sit down and think about your options every turn, and adapt strategies on the fly while navigating a complex gameplay system that has actual depth. Now, turn-based gacha games can often get a bad rep, since a lot of the late game content for them comes down to a check to see if you're attacking with the advantageous element, and your success is graded based on how many turns you took. Based on the game's metrics, a unit or team that can clear a stage in fewer turns will be objectively better than others that can't clear it as that few turns, even if they offer unique and interesting playstyles. The winner for this category must not have this problem, or at least circumvent it as best as it can. Again, just like best action, if any other portions of the game, like the story or music, stand out as well, that's great. But if they don't, then not the end of the world. You're there for the strategic gameplay. Best story. This will be a hugely contested category, as storytelling is extremely subjective. But luckily, this is my list. I can tell you what I subjectively consider as the best storytelling in gacha games. You want to get into a vast universe and get introduced to a strong cast that develops and changes over time, with high tension and stakes challenging your crew. The game does not shy away from heavier themes and often does not make the protagonist the centerpiece of the universe. The in-game characters will not glaze you 24/7, and you can't Deus Ex Machina your way out of every conflict. Whatever game takes a spot, prepare to cry. Best Gooner Game. Look, I get it. You do want to be glazed 24/7, and you do want to Deus Ex Machina into every character's bed. You want to be part of a crazy love fantasy, taking a trip to Goon Lagoon and never leave. The game may not have groundbreaking story or gameplay, but it's a 10 out of 10 in the fan service department. Whether that may be a dedicated dorm mode to get extremely parasocial, or cosmetics that makes you think how this is even allowed on the App Store. The developers have delivered their best work with precision and care to ensure that you have an excellent goon. Believe me, there were a lot of contenders for this category. Finally, best casual. Okay, high-intensity action or high-intensity brain usage makes you want to quit the game. Instead, you want something to unwind to after a long day. The game doesn't exactly have the most complex gameplay, but its systems are incredibly streamlined and easy to learn. The game basically plays itself for you. You feel the satisfaction of collecting new cool characters with relative ease, with fun little minigames to try out, and the game's universe just overall feels good to be a part of. This is where auto battlers and idle games have a chance to shine. So those are the 6 categories I've come up with. I try to be as creative and diverse as I could so that there will be 6 different flavors to try. Let's get started with the list, and if you skipped here from the beginning of the video, don't complain if you didn't watch my criteria section and you get confused. Starting off with Best Longevity. While any game could have been placed here and possibly would have some overlap between the other categories, the winner is the OG Arknights. So I kinda got bored with Enfield after playing it for a month, and I went back to the original Arknights instead. I've actually been playing this on and off casually since December, and after taking the time to build a functional squad, as well as pulling some good units, I realized that there was more meat on this bone when it comes to content and diversity. The story is not voiced, but the catalog for it is massive. There's a timeline system that lets you sort by the release order or read order, and this extends to the past events that will run as well. The gameplay is tower defense, which for me subjectively tends to be a little hit or miss. However, this game is also one of those that create unique challenges for virtually every stage, and the positionings and timings of operators you place down can have an influence on the outcome. The game took its sweet time matching its quality of life features to the rest of the industry, but it's all finally there, minus an official PC port. Arknights also pioneered its unique way of progression, which I wish more games did. There is no RNG gearing system, and dupes give stat boosts only. Yes, you might find the grind for the higher elite levels to be quite slow and tedious, but overall, the system feels very fair. The gacha is an average 2% for a 6-star with a 50 pulse, soft pity, and carryover. There are a few operators that are limited, but the majority of them will be permanently available. Although, just a hint, the limited operators do tend to be more powerful than the standards. There's also side activities and challenge content to explore. While I've not gone too deep into it myself, it is regarded as one of the few gacha games with a lot of variation and ways to test your limits. It is possible to beat some of those stages with low rarity units, assuming you put enough dedication. Due to the game also giving you the premium gacha currency for free for 3-starring a stage, you can also land a few cosmetic items from the shop without having to pay for it if you wanted to. Overall, Arknights landed the spot here due to its high skill ceiling gameplay, great world building, a ton of content to explore, and fair progression and gacha systems. It's the all-rounder that does everything right and offers something to everyone. You can never go wrong with Arknights. Best Action. This category was the 6th one I added to the list, since I felt it didn't make too much sense leaving out a category that's clearly distinctly different from other game genres. I didn't really have to look far because the winner was pretty clear in my mind already. The winner goes to Punishing Ray Raven. Originally launched in 2019, the game has had many glow-ups to streamline its beginner experience and overall intuitiveness of its systems. Many features got added, and some modes even got removed. The gameplay is some of the tightest I've seen in an action game, and its 3-unit team composition makes rotations and skill timings to be quite critical. It does have a perfect dodge mechanic, as missing one in a challenging fight can possibly lose you placement in the leaderboard. When you get staggered in the game, you get staggered a lot. That being said, you don't necessarily need to be a hardcore Devil May Cry fan to enjoy the game. Some character kits may read like a phone book, except if you just look up the most optimal setups, you can just play on autopilot. Now, action games, particularly in the gacha genre, will inevitably run into certain issues where you're just memorizing a set of buttons to press, and the game becomes a light show where you just repeatedly watch the same alt animations. I'd be lying if I said PGR never runs into this problem, but I really don't think there's a way for a gacha game with action gameplay to not have this at all. The game has a 100% rate-up gacha system with carryover, and the first major dupe upgrades can be earned for free by participating in certain late game modes. As it came out before gacha games became mainstream, the gearing system is oddly easy to navigate. You can use these tokens to just pick which stat you want a piece of gear to have, and these are given out pretty frequently. For those that want high-intensity gameplay, PGR is my pick for this category. Best Strategy. I actually had a really tough time picking between two different entries. The two close contenders are Morimans and Chaos Zero Nightmare. However, I would personally give a slight edge to Morimans for having a more unique theme. I will go over the pros and cons of both games, since I really think either are worth a try. Both games are considered deck builder roguelikes. You enter a stage with party members all containing their own deck of cards, and try to manipulate the deck and gain other buffs that help you along the way to the final fight. Mechanically, they're both inspired by Slay the Spire, so if you come from that, then you'll already know some mechanics. Morimans has Lovecraftian themes, and its gameplay is definitely among some of the hardest I've played in a gacha game. Both you and your opponent can do some unfair things, and it's pretty thrilling to somehow find a way out of a tough spot. Even the character showcase stages make you think, since you can actually fail them if you're not paying attention. The game does not have an elemental system, meaning you cannot deal more damage to an enemy for having the right element. Instead, its units are spread out among 4 different realms that all have their unique mechanics. The weapon system only relies on dupes, meaning that you don't actually have to upgrade a weapon once you pull it. The RNG aspect of the gearing system can be a little annoying to max out, but its effects are fairly minor. Older characters periodically get added to the standard pool, and the game gives out a lot of freebies, although one big cost is that the game can be reliant on dupes to provide big power boosts to a unit. The late game mode will give advantages to units in a particular realm, but does not handpick an advantage with the newest rate-up character. The rating system also does not depend on turn count. As long as you can beat the dungeon at all, you will be rewarded the points. You'll be racking your head around its story and late game modes, and it's one of the few turn-based gacha games that avoids the turn limit rating system. On the other hand, Chaos Zero Nightmare is a more modern example of the same deal, just with more streamlined models. I've actually been playing this game every day, and I think it's a textbook example of how to launch and maintain a gacha game in today's age. I made a video discussing its flaws with game designs, except the game has fixed virtually all of them. The Battle Pass gave you more gacha currency, new modes that don't care how many turns you take to beat it, ways to manipulate RNG during roguelike runs, and buffs to some weaker units, even the 4 stars. The most unique aspect about CZN is the deck building. In the Chaos late game mode, you'll embark on a run and start making adjustments to a unit's deck, like adding new cards and upgrading them. When the run is over, you'll use the save data that contain the deck you farmed during that run in other modes. It's mainly the thrill of getting that one combo of cards you never thought you needed that will make you go, wow, this actually feels unfair. In addition to having an admittedly generic RNG gearing system, getting the deck you want actually takes a lot of decision making, and you can steer towards a specific build. The gacha system is a classic 50-50 rate-up chance, but new units are immediately added to the standard pool when their initial run is over. Aside from true limiteds, which the game has had only one in the first 6 months it's live. Now, this game will still have some modes with turn limits for rewards, like the seasonal mode where it heavily shills the current rate-up character, and you're ranked based on how much damage you dealt in a certain amount of turns. Although, in addition to the roguelike, there is also a tower mode where you have to beat 5 encounters in a row, where the enemies have elemental weakness to every element, and your reward isn't based on the number of turns. As long as you beat it at all, you get the full rewards. This mode is still in the beta stages and allows some units to shine where they would not elsewhere, like those that give you a lot of shields. This one got pretty close, as I still wanted to include it as a very honorable mention. But in the end, Morimans still wins the tiebreaker. But if you're into more gooner elements, I'm sure CZN may seem more enticing to you. The winner for Best Story had 3 close candidates, but I overall settled on one at the end. I had many praises for the story of the first Girls Frontline. Despite looking like a fanservice-heavy game, the lore is actually interesting, with many twists and turns, and going into many deeper themes involving geopolitics. I would have considered Fate Grand Order as well, but I personally disqualified it for this list, given that it heavily relies on limited units and makes no attempts at making them permanent. Heaven Burns Red is a very close contender for this category, as it follows a roster of set characters in which they will change and develop over time. The lighthearted moments have huge payoffs when you finally get to the more serious story arcs, and overall has a really strong cast you'll get attached to. The only condition is that you have to like anime humor, and I know just how subjective that can be. So, which game made it in the end? I knew Limbus Company had to be on the list somewhere, and it looks like this is it. Now, I'll be honest here, I don't really like Limbus' gameplay all that much, but the distinct style it has in writing its characters and world building is something I haven't seen many gacha games recreate, if at all. You follow the story of 12 core characters as you navigate through the world. The game does not shy away from heavier tones and themes, as every chapter in the story fills you with a sense of intrigue. The characters go through their individual arcs and will change as the story progresses. Since the game has taken an ambitious approach of only having 12 characters you can pull from the gacha, then all 12 of those characters have to be likable in some way. The game does not have RNG gearing systems at all, and has the unique mechanic that if you just grind the weekly roguelike mode, you can just shard the characters from the gacha instead, bypassing it completely. Plus, no dupe system at all. Older characters will take the duration of a season to enter the dispense pool, but aside from some true limited items, it's oddly easy to just put in the effort to grind a little to get every single unit in the game. Although, I'd say the game has slower update cycles and has no repeatable endgame mode. I'm the type of person to just play this once a week while waiting for new story content. In a lot of gacha games, you'll notice they have a writing formula of only having the most recent character be relevant in the current story of the game, and then just toss them aside to make way for the next batch of new units. I even have a name for this scheme: the gacha motive of storytelling. The story is a means to sell the characters to you, and once you start noticing this, you can't unsee it. Now, a handful of gacha games in history have stuck to a more core cast, so I really wouldn't say this applies to every game, but it's a safe choice that a lot of new developers have opted into. Of course, if you don't care about the story in a video game, then this is a non-issue. But if you ever want to break from that and get into a rich world with actual complex and interesting characters, Limbus is the one. Now, onto the leaders of gooning technology. We have developers patenting the method of rendering stocking textures, so let's see how far this rabbit hole will go. This category was hugely contested due to how many games focused on fan service exist out there. However, I have consulted with a small group of experts that are fluent with gooning technology to determine the quality of the goon. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna go off with my gut instincts here. In any case, I do think there are ways to do fan service elements well and ways to do them not so well. My condition is that not only does the game have to be of decent quality, the fan service elements should be as accessible as possible. By my own rules, GFL 2 and Snowbreak both provide top-notch gooning, but they have been disqualified from this list. Nikkei is a good choice with great music and story. Brown Dust 2 was a close contender for this, as you will be utterly shocked how a game like this can even exist on the App Store, given that it's goon maxing to the extreme, and a lot of the cutscenes will probably get a video age restricted if you show the whole thing. However, I ultimately ruled out these two, as they do pull the $60 skin tactic, where some of their skins will cost the full price of a console game. Nikkei is possibly the worst offender of this, as theirs don't even have any unique interactions, where BD2 at least puts in the decency to put some details into it. On the other hand, if you're a husbando enjoyer, I'm sorry to say this, but there really isn't anything else better than Love and Deep Space right now. Infold has the female-oriented gacha game niche in a stranglehold, and until something better comes along, you're gonna have to stick to this. The actual winner for this category goes to an unexpected underdog, Azur Lane. I recently just had the privilege of doing a long-form review on it, and while I wasn't personally that big of a fan of its core gameplay, what I do have to give praise for is its fair business model of creating highly intricate skins and cosmetics. I imagine this is the main selling point of the game. While the game itself is quite old and there's a lot of grind involved, Azur Lane never betrayed the original model of creating high-quality and affordable skins. Some of the skin showcases can last up to an hour. You're practically watching a movie by that point. The skins are purchased with in-game gems, which is possible to earn for free, but you won't get a lot of freebies this way, so if you want the good stuff, you're gonna have to pay up a little. Even the most premium skins will cost around $20 to $30, which last time I checked is way lower than $60. The core gameplay takes on an old-school style of grind, but if you want accessible fan service, Azur Lane's got your back. Finally, the casual pick. Now, believe me, there are plenty of auto-battlers and idle games on the market, and sometimes it's quite difficult to distinguish what sets them apart sometimes. Cookie Run Kingdom got recommended to me a couple times, and I do have plans to check it out. I might incur the wrath of its fans, but Uma Musume or Blue Archive could technically qualify as auto-battlers or idle games as well. In any case, even if they're not, I would consider them to be casual enough to fit this category. There are a lot of contests out there, and my pick for this could change in a future rankings video. But currently, my pick goes to one that I played for a decent bit, Reverse 1999. This game excels at presentation and overall quality. It does contain turn-based gameplay, but I'm here to tell you that it's piss easy, and I've gotten to the point where I could fully clear the rotational late-game mode with virtually no effort at all. You just need the meta units, but you know. There is a true late-game mode called Reveries in the Rain, but that one is for whales. You can just auto the entirety of the story assuming your units are decently leveled, and you can enjoy its many unusually high-quality story presentations. The music and sound designs are excellent, and it's one of those games I'd actually recommend using headphones to play if you can. With plenty of minigames and fun side activities, it just feels great to play after a long day where you don't have to put in much strategic thinking behind the gameplay at all. The gacha system is a classic 50-50 coin flip rate up. Second SSR guarantees the rate up if you lost the first 50%, with carryover to the next banner. Older 6-star units will be moved to the standard pool after around 3 months when their first banner ends, aside from the true limiteds. Here's a hint, just like Arknights, the limiteds tend to be pretty overpowered. Luckily, it also uses Arknights' progression system of not having any RNG gearing system or a separate weapon gacha, and rely on grinding for material drops for ascension stages. Although, characters in this game do have 3 ascensions, while Arknights has 2. Past events are periodically archived after their initial run ends, so you can still enjoy them given enough time. If you're looking for a low-stakes game, Reverse 1999 is among some of the highest quality. So that does it for my top 6 gacha games I personally recommend in 2026. Let me know if you have any favorites or play any of the mentioned games yourself. In the meantime, I'll be preparing for a Star Savior 1-week review, so if you want to catch that and other gacha related content, subscribe to the channel. You can support for as little as $2 a month on Patreon. As always, thank you for watching, be sure to spend moderately, and have fun out there.